demo session and for the entire course duration as far as the technical on the SAS and PAS concerns. So I'll just quickly share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yep.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for taking out your time and joining the demo session with Rainbow Training Institute. We really thankful for your time and showing up the interest for signing up for this demo. So before we get started, right, a quick brief introduction about myself. I'm Satya. I've been into the Oracle space more than 15 years, almost since very beginning of the 11i days. People who are from the EBS background can relate. I was part of 11i R1 to 12.3, 12.5. Implementations, and then almost from the last and almost from a decade, I'm primarily working on Oracle Fusion. Pretty early in the game, I was part of this product implementations, and when the product was in its early stages. So out of these 15 years, right? Almost like from again from a decade, I'm kind of also helping out to enhance and educate various different people from various different backgrounds. As a trainer, I've got a privilege and opportunity to talk to so many of freshers and experienced folks to help them, taught them, help them to upgrade from e-business suite to Oracle Fusion, or to start a brand new career, in the Oracle Fusion space. If someone is basically looking out a job opportunity, like more like a fresh graduate or something like that, right? So I'm basically working as a technical architect with an MNC, where I've got pretty decent exposure across various different verticals, various different product lines within Oracle suite of products. But my primary expertise is in and around financials and supply chain management. While my main focus is on the technical aspects, but I can also have a very good exposure on the functional elements too. So basically, I'm a techno-functional, consultant, which deals primarily on the financials and SCM suite of products. Like I told, certainly I got exposure, from 11i onwards. Like for the people who don't know what 11i and all is, they are like the prior versions of the Oracle Fusion. It all starts from 11i and then upgraded to R1, 2, and then now the whole world, most of the customers are kind of migrating or implementing Oracle Fusion. Okay. So that's in short about myself. Today I'll be taking up a demo on the Oracle SAS Technical, so followed by the Oracle Integration Cloud Generation 3 tomorrow. And then we will be, I have a co-trainer with me, Ravi. He will be mainly focusing on, the SAS functional aspects of it. Okay, so I'm sure the admin team might have forwarded you the link to join for next 3 days. I request feel free to take out some time and join the class to get an overview about what we are going to taught in this entire course duration. Okay, so a quick high-level view on what is that we are going to cover in this entire duration, right? Primarily, we'll be focusing on SAS functional, with the focus on SCM and the financial areas, right? And then we'll be talking in and out like all things about SAS technical elements, everything which is comprises of the SAS, basically all the technical elements. And then we'll be also talking about the PaaS, platform as a service, right? Primarily, we'll be focusing on Oracle Integration Cloud Generation 3, which is the latest in the market. Okay, the course duration is around 3 months. We are planning to do it on a daily basis on the weekdays, 8 to 9:30 a.m. IST, right? The videos will be available for you guys, for a pretty long time, for you to always revisit and, enhance your practice and, knowledge in that respective areas. We're going to give you 3 months of private instance, which means a dedicated environment, which is always available, except for the password reset downtimes. And then post that, we will be also providing you a public access. Along with this sessions, we'll also be providing you the material support and the resume preparation, especially for the people who are starting their career for the first time. And then we'll be also helping you with the certification support. Generally, markets expect certain certifications in the SaaS in a specific product. So we'll be guiding and helping you with such supports. Okay. So I hope you got some basic idea in terms of what we are getting into in terms of this course. But now let's get into the actual core of this agenda for the today's session. We'll be covering as much as we can based on that time available for us from this particular list of agenda we have. So primarily we'll be talking about introduction to Oracle ERP Cloud. And then we'll be talking about the product families, and we'll touch basing on the architecture of Oracle Cloud applications. And then from here, the fun part starts, we'll be getting into the details of various different data loading options across the product families, right? All the inbound aspects, inbound integration aspects and outbound integration elements and data extraction, all that tools we'll be discussing at a high level. And we'll be also talking about the reporting tools, various different reporting tools available in the system. What is for what purpose, like what tool is used for which use case, which scenario, right? And we'll be touch basing also on the fusion personalizations or the customization space, like being it a SaaS product, we'll briefly look at it, what are the possible options. I'm sure people who are coming from the EBS background, have a keen interest on this area, considering it's a SaaS. There are limitations. So we'll be talking about those aspects, and then we'll be talking about a little bit on the security model and the core concept of RBAC, role-based access control. And then we'll be concluding with the workflows in the Fusion application. Okay. So let's get started, right? I'm sure the audience, we have a mixed audience, most of them are from the EBS background, wanted to upgrade themselves to the ERP cloud world or Oracle Fusion world. A few of them are also looking for a brand new career into this amazing space called Oracle Fusion applications, right? To cater both the audience, right? I'll try to speak a little bit about what exactly an ERP cloud, and then, give a brief introduction so that, they don't feel lost. And then, at the same time, the experienced audience doesn't feel bored. Okay. So I'll try to balance both the worlds. Just please bear with me. Okay. So, see, let's understand what exactly an Oracle ERP cloud, right? Before even talk about Oracle ERP cloud, what exactly an ERP, stands for, right? ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, right? You take any business in the world, in a simple terms, if I wanted to put, right? You take any business in the world, they certainly need a software to automate their operations, right? Take any business, right? Let's take an example of Amazon, right? Like I'm sure every one of us, some or the other time, we've been using Amazon, right, for various different shopping needs, right? Let's take an example. It's a global e-commerce gained, right? That you can, it relies on ERP, like enterprise resource planning, Oracle Fusion applications to manage its massive operations across various different product lines, like say CRM, customer relationship management, SCM, supply chain management, financials, right, and the HCM, like human capital management, across all these product families. I'll talk about them in a minute, but just keep these terminologies. I mean, if you're hearing them for the first time, you may be a little perplexed about them, but think like, in a simple native terms, right? Uh, for any business to operate, right, like they need certain functionalities, like say they need to take orders from various different customers, and they need to deliver the orders, right, and then they need to get paid for the orders, and they may need to also deal with the returns if they got a defective products, and deal with all the replacements, right. And if the vendor, I mean, if the company is like, operating at multiple places, right? They need to deal with assets, their employee computers, tables, shades, things like that, right? So, I mean, at the same time, right, they need to deal with the vendor payments, right? And at the end, every business is about, figuring out what's my profit, what are my losses, right? Where is my amount, I mean, a lot of my amount get into, and all that insights, right? So, I mean, this is at a very high level, right? The point is, right, in a simple terms, right? Companies like Amazon, or Samsung or Apple, you take any company for that matter, right? Even if you take a small scale vendor, you take the regular grocery store you can think of in your mind, right? Everyone definitely needs an ERP. I mean, it depends on how big a customer is, right? How vast their operations are. They tend to choose the right software. Some people can maintain this even in an Excel. I mean, if you're super small as a business, you can even maintain this in a book, right? Hey, look, these are my expenses I paid to vendor to procure my goods. And for this is the amount I purchased, and this is the amount I've got sold it to the customers, right? And I mean, they can do the tallying, and they can do that, all kind of reconciliations, basically, to figure out how much I have spent, and what are my expenses, and what are my losses, and what are my gains, basically, right? So I mean, in a nutshell, right, like most of the medium to large scale industries, I mean, large scale customers often go with what we call applications like Oracle Fusion applications. I mean, if I take a few minutes, right, like for the people who are new, right, just 3 to 4 minutes to explain a little more in detail, right, like what I'm talking. So, I mean, I'm sure people from the EBS background can relate, this particular slide, right? We have various different modules like financials, human capital management, supply chain, right? And project portfolio management, procurement, CRM, and all this stuff, right? And I mean, definitely doesn't need an additional introduction of people who are from the EBS background. But for the sake of people who are totally new to it, right? Let me relate my earlier Amazon example with this product family, so it makes more sense, right? So, I mean, I'm sure you guys might have definitely used Amazon for purchasing a lot of your different goods or different products across various different categories, right? Think like, CRM, customer relationship management cloud, right? So this think like this, let's say a customer visits an Amazon, browse for the products, and places an order, right? So CRM basically deals with all the customer database data management. It holds all the customer information. It even gives you the personalized recommendations, right? Hey, look, if I'm purchasing for a laptop, right, it will show me all the laptop accessories, and cables, and different type of other laptops in the same price range, or based on the filters I have applied, right? And it will also even take care of a lot of marketing automation, right? I'm sure you might have received, hey, look, you have left these are the items in your cart. Based on your recent purchase history, they will send you similar items in an email, let's say. Excuse me. They'll send you similar emails, that targeted emails, like seasonal offers, abandoned cart items, and cart reminders, and all that stuff. And it will also, the CRM also deals with a lot of customer feedback. It collects your product reviews and ratings, and improve product listings and customer satisfaction, all that stuff, right? And and that's what, like, think, a module like CRM can cater all these kind of aspects to a business like Amazon, right? And moving on to the SCM, which is an integral part of Oracle Fusion applications. SCM stands for supply chain management. On the right side, you can see here, right? This, I mean, once we place an order, right, this takes care of, this ensures basically the product is delivered on time. All the internal inventory management, let's say if a particular item or a product is go on the less, I mean, on hand quantity is less, right? It will internally take care of placing an procurement order, so that automatically the stock gets, fulfilled by the supplier, right? Order fulfillment, like it certainly uses a lot of advanced algorithms to fulfill your orders. You can imagine, right? A company like Amazon have thousands of warehouses across the country. Do you really know from which warehouse you're getting your product? I mean, there is an intelligent algorithms, intelligence, Oracle Fusion functionalities are working behind the screens, to help you automate, fetch the desired nearby warehouse to fulfill your goods, right? And then, I mean, moving on to financials, right? I mean, once you place an order, right, once you receive your goods, or even at the time of placing an order, certainly you need to pay, right, like for the product you're purchasing, right? So that's where your financials comes into the picture. The module called account receivables comes into the picture. That's basically revenue to the company, right? So you are purchasing something from the Amazon, and Amazon is going to receive the amount for the goods you kind of purchased. At the same time, um, Amazon is just an e-commerce company, right? It tie-ups with thousands of suppliers. Like, let's say if you're purchasing an Apple laptop or a Samsung mobile phone, or probably some kind of a furniture or something else altogether, right? I mean, at the end there are various different suppliers. Imagine, it can hold. I mean, it can basically talk to 1,000 different suppliers for 1,000 different type of categories of goods, basically. So, I mean, before Amazon sells anything to a customer, they need to stock up, all these kind of goods into their warehouses, right? Obviously, which means Amazon need to pay to the suppliers. That's where account payables comes into the picture. Here it is. So, I mean, like, you can think of, all the supplier payments, for restocking the inventory, and paying to the logistic providers, right? All these, FedEx, Blue Dot, all these folks, right? For delivering your goods. All this gets into the account payable because you're paying something to the what we call these vendors, basically, right? I mean, certainly even the financial management have a more broader scope. It also deals with asset management, because think like Amazon have a lot of warehouses, offices. Everywhere there is a lot of physical, what we call infrastructure that has to be procured from a vendor, need to deal with all that expenses and things like that, right? So that's where this asset management and all things comes into the picture. And in fact, the financials also play a key role in dealing with the supplier payments and things like that. And certainly, being a financial module, this is the heart of all your reconciliations, financial reconciliations, because at the end, you are getting money in the name of account receivables. You're paying money in the name of account payables, right? Money is flowing in, money is flowing out, right? Like, there must be a clear reconciliation to figure out, what are my cash outflows and inflows, and everything will be recorded, in the cash management module, and everything will be reconciled in the general ledger module, right? In fact, Oracles have one of the highest reputation in the financial space for its robust, practices across the world, to support various different accounting methods depending on which country you are and which region you're operating from, and have a very strong reporting capabilities, to give various different insights, into your spending, supplier payments, and overall financial health, right? And moving on, right? And another key element is, right, your human capital management, right? So basically, I think this module very much anyone can relate easily, right? Uh, if you are like, see, if you are placing an order and someone is delivering, someone is helping behind the screens to pack properly, or arrange, or organize and do so many things, they're all done by Amazon employees, right? So basically that means they are part of the human capital management, like, then who is getting hired on what role, at what payroll, at what location, and what kind of benefits they are getting, how much leaves they are taking, all that stuff is taken care in the human capital management. All the recruitment, like, payroll management, employee performance management, learning and development, all that stuff basically, right? So I mean, in a nutshell, right, Oracle Cloud is like a complete suite of products which can cater to almost every business function across the verticals, across the domains. Like, it's not that it is like a domain specific, or an industry specific, something like that. No, it can fit into a telecom industry, a healthcare industry, or even an IT industry. It can basically cater the needs to almost every business available out there. Okay, so it is certainly flexible and have an amazing options to, what we call configure according to your business function. Okay, so I hope that gives some basic idea about people who are, from the, fresher background. And I mean, I know it will be a little boring for the people who are from the EBS background, but I mean, we're not going to spend more time on that, and we'll quickly move into the other important elements. Okay, now let's get into the architecture, right? I mean, before that, right, I would like to show you a quick slide, right? So, I mean, uh, see, I'm sure many people, just a sec, I'll take quick Excel. So I'm sure, many people heard about these terms, right? Right? So, I mean, you might be hearing a lot in the cloud computing world, right? Like, we've been like hearing these, everyone talks about SaaS, which means software as a service, right? And then PaaS, platform as a service, and IaaS is infrastructure as a service, right? So I mean, what we are talking here is, right, if people are from the EBS background, that's certainly not a cloud product. It's an on-premise application, EBS, right? So Oracle Fusion being, it's a cloud offering. It's a SaaS offering, basically, okay? Fusion, it's a SaaS offering. And whereas, your EBS is, an on-premise offering. So the main difference, right, uh, in this case, uh, what we call in the case of SaaS, everything is taken care by the vendor. I'm going to show you a quick slide in terms of what's really taken care by a vendor versus what's in the control of a customer. Right. So as people are stepping, I mean, especially people from the EBS background who are stepping into the SaaS, I mean, mode of operations, right? It is extremely important to learn the differentiations and what are all the scope of the application development in these terminologies. Okay, so now, right, I'll just quickly show you a quick slide. This is important. So, I mean, right, look at this, right? So, first of all, Oracle Fusion Applications is a pure SaaS offering, software as a service. That means Oracle is going to give you an out of the box suite of products to you, depending on your subscription, right? If your company is opt for financials, you're going to get all the financial modules. If your company is opt for the entire suite of products like HCM, CRM, you're going to get everything. Generally in companies, right, not everyone, like, until unless the entire company is an Oracle shop, otherwise you see that a mixed someone chooses Workday for the HCM, for the procurement, someone chooses SAP Ariba, and for financials, customer chooses, Oracle Financial Cloud. It can be, you can't really generalize this kind of combinations, but it all varies, right? Some people have everything as an Oracle shop. But despite of that fact, right, these definitions, the SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, and IaaS, right? They pretty much fit into any cloud vendor with small variations here and there, right? Because the cloud space is quite evolving. You keep hearing new definitions, new functionalities, every week. So, but fundamentally, this remains same whatever the vendor you take, most cases, right? So speaking from a Oracle Fusion context, right? When I say applications, you can focus here, all your product families, right? In all the AP module, AR module, GL module, inventory, order management, right? And then the data relies in it, right? And the runtime, the underlying middleware, and what operating system it is running. And from here, it's all going into the infrastructure layer, right? So till here, you have a platform layer. This is your application layer. And then you have like operating system. This is all platform layer. And then virtualization, server, storage, networking, all this is the infrastructure layer, right? So basically, anywhere you go in the world, and if a vendor calls themselves for any of the software product, if it's a SaaS, everything is managed by the service provider, in this case Oracle. Then in that case, you may ask, Satya, in that case, what is that it is in my control, or what is that it is in a customer control? In the customer control, they have a full control on the security, who can access, to what level they can access, right? And second, they have full flexibility to configure the application they want. Understand? But they don't care about, hey, security patching, all the new functionalities, implementation, there is a bug fixing, all that is not a customer headache. Understand? So whereas in the past model, right? In this again, like in this entire training, right? We will be mainly focusing on SaaS and PaaS. Our Oracle Fusion Technical falls under SaaS. Oracle Integration Cloud falls under PaaS. It's a platform. So we're not going to touch base into the IaaS part of it, because most likely the infrastructure as a service falls under the database administrators, vicinity. So basically, right? So in the past, this is where, like, you will have a platform to build your own applications, like, or you build your own integrations. That you have in control. That means you can build brand new applications, you can build brand new integrations. Whereas platform is running on a certain operating system, and it does have its own infrastructure layer, like virtualization, servers, and storage, and networking, and which data center. Of course, customer have a choice of deciding in which data center they wanted to keep their data, because that's a key element. Because let's say I'm a customer from India, running a very critical sensitive information like passport services, right? Obviously, I don't want to host my data in Mexico or US. Why would I do that? Right? Because it's a government related service, and I wanted to host my data within my country, right? So choosing a data center is certainly in the customer's choice, but other than that, there is nothing in our control. Basically, we can manage, we can operate, we can have a full control on the data, but not from a what we call enhancing standpoint. If there are any security issues or any disaster recoveries, and all that stuff is totally in control of the Oracle. Okay, so you just keep this basic differentiation in mind, that SaaS means everything is Oracle's, the vendor's responsibility, in this case, Oracle's responsibility, except that the fact that we have a full hold on configurations, personalizations, a little bit of customizations to an extent an application allows, right? And then security. PaaS means, yes, you have full control on your application and development. You can develop from the scratch your own application integration, but rest is not in my control, right? So that's something I feel important to showcase you guys before I move forward. Okay, so now coming back to this architecture, right? See, it's a SaaS environment. Is it really important to understand or know the intricacies of architecture? I would say yes. It's good to have a basic idea, but to be frank, we have a zero control on this because it's a SaaS product, right? It's a zero. I mean, if unlike it's an EBS, certainly you have a quite a good control on the EBS suite of products because you have access to the application layer or middle layer like the application server or even the database layer, right? Which means you can basically do modify, add, quite a lot of things, right? You can even build your own custom module there, right? Right? It's good to know the three-tier architecture of e-business suite, right? Because it's important. It's not good to know. It's mandatory to know because otherwise you cannot operate it efficiently. If you don't know which folder you're going to put your report or forms, compile your forms, I mean, certainly you're not very effective in doing that respective technical role, right? So that's the case in the EBS. It is a mandatory to know the architecture of it so that you can operate effectively. I mean, but if you are in the cloud role, right, it's just a good to know because you have a zero control on this various different layers of the application. So now, if you see this high level, right, on the topmost, you can think of this as a UI layer or a web layer, right? This is where all your product families like using the UI, it's a web-based application. And for your information, Oracle Fusion applications is a ADF-based application. Okay. So it's a fully ADF-based application. And then on the top layer, you have all your product families like financials, HCM, all that stuff, right? And in the middle layer, Oracle Fusion middle layer is like, a very strong middle layer, in comparison to other middle layers because it's been there for ages and been evolving over the years, right? So some of these components you see here are something you can even relate some of them. If you are from the hardcore web development background, if you ever dealt with dealing with the OAF applications or ADF applications, right? You can relate some of the components here. Okay, so in a nutshell, right? If I like I told, it's not super important to know each and every component of it, but it's good to know that hey, look, this is how these are the key components which really play a major role in shaping up the experience we are getting in the application. So to name a few, right? You can see here the enterprise scheduler. This deals with all your jobs in the application, similar to your concurrent programs or concurrent jobs in the EBS world, right? We call this as an ESS jobs here in the Oracle Fusion world, right? So this deals with all that stuff. And then this enterprise crawl and search framework, whatever the search you perform in the entire application handles by this, right? And then like I told, right, this is like, everything is entirely is in ADF, like, Oracle's proprietary framework in terms of building the Fusion applications. That's what one of the key element is. And then you have this business intelligence. Reporting analytics is an integral part of Oracle Fusion applications. Okay, so basically, when I say integral, right, it kind of plugged into every module, not just creating a report and getting it out. Like it kind of plugged into as an analytics, right? Hey, look, I wanted to see the total invoices closed in the last 30 days or the total invoices. I mean, they are readily available dashboards, infolets, for you to get the real-time insights. The total orders raised and the pick releases and ship conforms and billings and pending billing or things are on hold. All that stuff is like dealt by your business intelligence, right? And then certainly another notable important elements are your content management. You have your application server in your EBS world, right, to hold all your content basically. If you want to process a file, you place a file there, like all the attachments sits there, right? It's an application, a Linux-based application server you have. Here in the Fusion world, all that file management, is taken care by content server. We call that as an UCM. Okay, this one. So we call that as an UCM, basically, Universal Content Management. That basically takes care of a lot of, all your application specific attachments. Let's say you have AP invoice attachments. Okay. You have expense report attachments, right? You have AR invoices. So all these attachments, basically a file which is linked to a transaction will be sitting in the UCM. Not only that, when you want to process an inbound file into the system, or you wanted to extract some report out of the system, these files can also be staged into this UCM server. That's an important element, basically, right? And then another important element in this is, right, your web center. I know people are from the people who are from the EBS background can relate. Web center content, web center, imaging, right? If anyone worked on EBS, I mean, especially in the payable module, they integrate a product called IPM. Image processing management for automated processing of the invoices, right? So they can relate, but that is also very, I mean, what you have seen on the EBS is pretty old, and a product which contains Windows servers and stuff like that. But fast forward in the Oracle world, right? The web center is transformed to do a pretty decent OCR job to intelligently extract your PDF copies, and put your data so that you can quickly create those transactions in the system, right? So, I mean, being an Oracle product, SOA BPM is something which you cannot ignore. Okay, that's the heart of it. Okay, because it's the Oracle Fusion is built on service-oriented architecture. Okay, and is it really important for us to know? Not really, but what's really, I mean, from an application standpoint, right? In the name of workflows, you have to have that exposure. You have to have that expertise of dealing with BPM workflows. Because in your EBS world, you have a lot of, you deal with a lot of workflows, right? .wft files and, things like that, right? So, but whereas here, that's totally, decommissioned. We no longer use that workflow at all. It's all taken care by the BPM suite of products, like all the BAPL workflows, right? So, I mean, in a nutshell, top layer is your product families, and middle layer is all your Fusion middleware components, and the bottom layer is your database layer. That's where your application schemas and middleware schema sits. Okay, so good to know this kind of an information because it helps when you stuck with certain issues and need to deal with Oracle SR. I mean, because when you have this level of clarity, you articulate your concerns clearly to the Oracle. Okay, let's get into the technical components, right? I'm sure many of you are interested in knowing this because for the people who are, from the EBS, and even for the folks, who are starting new, right? This is the starting point where we basically do a lot of hands-on, right? Basically, this is what we build when we call ourselves, right, a technical consultant, a technical architect, techno-functional member, right? These are the components, these are the technical components which I'm going to introduce you right now, which is like we'll be spending a lot creating them, experimenting them, and I mean, from a practice standpoint, right? These are the components, right? So now, I mean, if you take any application, right? So basically, any application you take, let's take, Oracle Fusion, right? Apps, right? So this being a Fusion application, right? You need a way to push the data into system. I call that as an inbound, right? Because you may be doing a brand new implementation, or you may be upgrading from a legacy system. Let's say currently, let's say you have a small business, you are probably running on some, some small piece of product. So basically, not a very notable product. Let's say XYZ product, right? ERP solution. let's assume this is a small product, because, and even some cases people even migrate from, big top of the line products like SAP or even NetSuite, uh, you know there's so many other products, basically people, even some from the Microsoft, Dynamics, so on and so forth. It could be anything. Your legacy could be anything, or you may be starting from the fresh. In either of the cases, right, it is important for you to understand the inbound options to to ingest the data into the Oracle Fusion applications, right? It's extremely important. In the similar way, you also need to know the data extraction, like, because any of the enterprise setup you take, right, your ERP doesn't just carry out everything. It has to talk to a lot of other different third-party systems. Understand, right? So which means, like I told in the example, right, maybe you need to talk to a different HR system like Workday or SAP SuccessFactors, or you may need to also send your purchase order information to some other third party system for whatever the reasons, right? Or it could be for the reporting reasons, or it could be for some other reasons, right? Or probably you may need to send all your benefits information to a benefits vendor, right? Merrill Lynch, or uh, vendors like that, right? So there are ample of requirements where you need to send data outside of the system. We call it as an outbound, basically, right? So if you're doing for the first time, I'm sure you must be think of some basics setups. Other than the setups, you need to think of creating the suppliers. If there are a handful of them, you can use the UI screens to do it. But if there are anything more than that, you need to opt for any of these inbound options available there, right? Now, with that basic understanding, right, Oracle Fusion offers these inbound options, basically. Okay, so as far as the SCM and financials concern, we heavily use a methodology called FBDA, file-based data import. Understand? Okay, so FBDA, right? Whereas if you're dealing with the HCM space, right, the inbound is slightly different. They use a different approach called HDL, HCM data loader, right? And other than these two methods are going to basically support a very high volumes of data. These are basically, this is an Excel based approach, a BDA, and which basically turns a CSV, basically. Don't think that when I say Excel, many of you wonder that it have a row limitation. How can this applicable to very large volume? But basically it will turn everything into a CSV file. And I'm sure people from the technical background can know that CSV have a much more larger appetite to hold the data, right? So basically FBDA is mainly used for financials and supply chain. HDL is used for, it's basically delimited kind of a data, HDL, which will primarily only exclusively used for HCM, right? Other than that, there is something called spreadsheet data loader. This is basically catered both in the HCM and financials and supply chain, but this is primarily for the very shorter amounts of data, because it's purely works on a spreadsheet like your Excel sheet. It doesn't. We will use this for two reasons. One, correcting your interface issues, because they are always not so many, right? Or if you have an ad hoc request of loading data, like say some they are in hundreds, you can certainly rely on it, right? Another one is payroll batch loader. This is purely for the exclusively for the payroll module. Right? Payroll data is generally super huge. That's why Oracle have a separate dedicated loader for the dealing with the payroll related functionalities. And across all the modules, there is one common functionality which will serve both your inbound and outbound needs is web services. Okay. Uh, People are from the EBS background. I'm sure you guys might have pretty much accustomed with PL SQL a lot, right? So you can think like the entire PL SQL, right? It's been uh, the whatever the PL SQL standard packages, whatever you kind of consume them, use them into, I mean, into your wrapper programs, right? They're all like, replaced with the web services objects, basically. I mean, every object or every functionality, you access them using web service. Let's say I want to get the invoices. I wanted to get a specific invoice. I wanted to create an invoice. I want to update an invoice. I wanted to add an attachment to an invoice. So all this stuff will be taken care by SOAP and REST web services. Okay, so it is extremely important. Does this mean, do you need to learn how to create a web service? Absolutely not. Remember, this is a SaaS offering. We have a zero control on, uh, figuring out or, compiling anything, So what is really needed is you just need to understand the basics of web services and how to consume them, with what authentication protocol, with what query parameters, with what template parameters, with what payload. So, I mean, I'm certainly we are going to cover these concepts down the line in the course, but just giving you an overview here, right? The SOAP and REST web services are a very much integral part of your Fusion applications. Okay, moving on, right, to the outbound space now. Obviously, like I explained you earlier, uh, uh, there is an equal importance of data extraction, right? So to the third-party systems, like I explained earlier, you may need to send your benefits data to your benefits vendor from a HCM standpoint, right? You may need to send some payable information, or the receivable information to a different third-party system, probably to do some revenue recognition and things like that, right? Or it could be anything, or probably you need to send the data to your warehouse system for data warehousing operations, right? So basically, in a nutshell, you have an ample of requirements and reasons on why you need to send the data out of your Oracle Fusion applications, right? Now, to do that, again, we have certain options, right? First and foremost thing, right? In HCM space, right? In any space, basically, you take HCM or financials or supply chain. A common method everyone uses is a BA publisher. This is where people from the EBS background can basically contribute their SQL skills, right? And then also their RTF report layout creation skills, or XSL4 creation skills, or all that stuff can be very much reused in this particular area. We'll talk more about this in the upcoming slides when I talk about the reporting aspects. But in a nutshell, right? So basically, the reporting BA publisher reports can also be very much used to develop the outbound extracts. Okay, so this can be used across the system. But again, uh, if you need to deal with super bulk data, even BA publisher have a limitation. It will very much handle most of your workloads, like So sorry for that, guys. Okay, so what I was telling is, right, um, uh, the BA publisher have its own limitations. When I say limitations, it very much cater a pretty decent amount of data, even in millions, but certainly it cannot handle 100 million data. It will certainly cater and extract data, even up to, there is no such hard limit. Like we cannot, Oracle never given you like anything like, hey, it will hold 10 million records or 5 million records. That's not like that. But generally there is a limitation. If the file size is going beyond 2 GB, abruptly the report will end up in error. So it's depending on what you're fetching, that 2 GB can hold a 20 million or only 5 million, depending on the length of your report and the nature of your data, right? So, but yeah, do you think application like Oracle Fusion can really sustain with the 2 GB of data or 10, 20 million? No, right? So especially in HCM spaces, even in the financial spaces, right? You must have there must be a need of extracting the data in the bulk. Whereas in the on-premise world, everything is in your control. You can write a SQL, fire up a SQL query or anything. It can, because you have ample amount of resources, you can let that run for even 5 days and create a 100 GB file. There's no harm there, right? Because you have everything in your control there. But here, you don't have that control, right? Despite it's a SaaS, right? You can't write a query and let it run for thousands of hours. It's just not possible. So the point is, that's why Oracle have come up with something like HCM extracts exclusively for a very large volume of data extraction, right? Certainly it offers certain level of customizations to add filters and column selection options, which can be customized according to, but it doesn't really offer a super high level customizations, but good enough to cater most of the business needs. And another one is bulk extracts. This is exclusively to the financials and SCM modules. Okay, HCM extracts and we call bulk extracts. So these two operate in the same model, but it's just that different names we call them, right? BA publisher we spoke already. And another important element is OTBA. OTBA is not commonly used as an outbound tool because OTBA is more like an interactive, visually representative tool, basically, which we'll talk. I mean, it basically serves, but we never know. Sometimes, in rare cases, people uses that as an outbound option, but super rarely. But that's primarily used for a quick ad hoc analysis, and it's basically a user friendly tool. More about that in the subsequent slides. You may wonder, right? This SOAP REST and web services are also there in inbound and also there in outbound. I told you, right? These web services can help you to fetch the data and also post the data and update the data. So basically, from an outbound operation standpoint, especially when your requirement is very low, that means web services will not handle larger volumes of data, probably in few hundreds, that too not in that one shot. You have to use techniques like pagination, limit and offset kind of parameters to fetch the data incrementally, because there will be a hard limit. You can't just fetch, hey, I wanted to fetch 10,000 row. No, it's not possible. Every web service have certain inbound limits. I mean, internal limits, basically, that, hey, if you run this blindly without giving any query parameters, it may fetch you maximum 500 rows or 800 rows. But if you wanted a next set, you need to leverage certain practices to do it. But yeah, in certain cases, where let's say if I want to fetch the business units, right? Certainly they won't be super high, right? Business unit, probably if you are a huge organization, you may ended up less than 50. That's super huge. I'm talking about business units. You can relate to the operating units in the business world, right? There are certain data, which is not, let's say, type of invoices, right? Those kind of things, right? They're not super high. You can certainly use them, using these web services to fetch the data and, pass on. Last option is, I mean, where many people will rarely talk about this is BICC, Business Intelligence Cloud Connector, BICC. Now, this is and another tool, which is an integral part of Oracle Fusion applications, comes with no additional licensing cost. Okay, and for your information, none of them comes with any additional licensing cost. But this one being, kind of left unused for so many years, and in the recent years, many people have started using this. This is exclusively used for data warehousing reasons. Okay, in the on-prem world, many people have a requirement of dumping the entire table data into a different database so that you can build your Tableau or Power BI or Domo, whatever the data warehousing tool you use to build your data warehousing reports, like to cater the larger audience, right? People do data dumps. Okay, that's the privilege we have in on-premise EBS, right? Here we don't have that, right? We don't have any control. And now I'm sure some people say that, hey, I will write a blind query like select star from AP invoices solve, and I will fetch everything. What if your AP invoices all have 100 million data, right? It will take eternity to, fetch that in the batches. So now the problem is, in a way, this is a harsh reality. Like, I mean, like with every SaaS vendor, basically, it's extremely difficult to get the data out of the system. Most of the cases, vendors will come up with their own paid tools. For example, if you take Oracle, have Oracle Analytical Cloud, OAC. It's an expensive offering. If you opt for that, right, it's easy to pump the entire data. There were certain expensive offerings which are available to the exclusive customers, where you can even use the Golden Gate to pump the entire data from Oracle Fusion to somewhere else, right? But they are super expensive. The licenses may cost up to 10 million dollars, for those tools. They're expensive, super expensive. Now, not everyone can afford, not every customer can afford that, right? So that's why this BICC, with some clever engineering, we can very much use this BICC to extract almost most of the data elements, so that we can keep that in the target database. More, I mean, when we talk about reporting, we'll talk about that. But yeah, okay. Yeah. So now a clear information basically is that, generally, right, in any of the project, most of the time, like 70% of the time, the work goes into the inbound and outbound integrations, because this is a very critical element. Because uh, inbound, in the sense, you are heavily relying on a third party system to give you the data, transform the data, and do all that derivations, and then finally push your data. And outbound is where your third party system is heavily relying on you. These are like, there may be a high dollar impact use cases, right? So it's extremely important, and most of our energy gets into it. And another aspect is your data conversions, right? So the same inbound methods, whatever I kind of given you a high level view, is what, like, basically uh, uh, can be reused or leveraged for the data conversions also. But see, the catch here, right? Like, generally for the interfaces and conversions, right? So, I mean, if you take this, right, basically interfaces, everyone know it's a one-time activity. Sorry, it's a recurring activity, right? That means it may run every day, every week, something like that. Conversions are most likely a one-time activity, until unless your company is going through spin-offs and acquisitions and things like that. But generally, it's a one-time activity, right? So, but in both the cases, you can basically use this FBDA. I mean, thinking that we are talking about financials and, SCM, right? Uh, so the point is, the only difference. See, the point is, in reality, right? This is a real-time integration will be accommodated by a middleware tools like OIC, because when you're getting data from a third-party system, right? You just don't dump whatever you get, right? Right? Even in the on-premise world, let's say a third-party system is putting a file in a server, you are reading that first. You're ensuring that by a custom program, you are reading that, and you're ensuring that, hey, all the mandatory elements are there. Otherwise, you're rejecting it or sending a notification, or you're inserting a data in, reason in the error table. And then you are reading, you're dumping into staging table, and then you are, validating the data. Hey, did I got a operating unit? Did I invoice date is in the open period or not? Is supplier valid or not? Site valid or not? Whatever, you are like doing the validations, and you're also deriving. Hey, I want to derive my payment terms, and I want to do many other derivations. You're doing all that, and then only you're finally pushing. right? The main difference is in the on-premise world, you are the one who defines what is needed for your main standard API. Right, standard API expects there is no, I mean, like there's no proper documentation anywhere available out there. You as an experienced guy know that my standard account payable API expects these 10 columns, and accordingly you validate, you derive, and then you feed it using your wrappers. Here in the Fusion, the good part is Oracle standardizes it. For AP, in the name of Excel sheets, it is telling that, hey, look, I need these 20 columns. Out of them, 10 are mandatory. It's telling that. But the catch here is it's a SaaS environment. You cannot certainly go and write your wrappers and, etc., etc. That's why you need to use tools like Oracle Integration Cloud. This will help you facilitate reading the file, doing the validations, deriving the additional things, and finally preparing the file the way Oracle wants it, and then push it and deal with the errors later. The same is the case applicable for, but generally with conversions, right? People don't rely on OIC. Rarely they rely, because conversion will have lots of data. People generally use an intermediary solutions, like, having a database setup. Because let's assume that you are upgrading from e-business suite to Oracle Fusion. Let's assume that you are doing a fixed assets conversion, or, purchase order conversion, or, open account payables conversion, anything, right? There will be a lot of differences between the systems. You're calling operating unit in the e-business suite, you're calling business unit here. Or you not just the functionality differences, right? Generally, people are doing these kind of, or customers are doing these kind of conversions probably for once in 2 decades or 3 decades, because the investment you are putting on that product is so huge that you cannot really accommodate moving away just like that. So that means you will have a lot of data, a lot of setups. And when these decisions are such, long gap decisions, there are high chances that you tend to change a lot of, terminologies and names of your, according to the current best standards. Right. So, I mean, like, you have to do a lot of mapping between your old functionality to new functionality. Now, all that stuff generally, done by a intermediary solution, like installing a database and using a database, dumping your source data, dumping your target data, and then do the middleman job of, doing a lot of PL SQL work, and then finally getting it out. And some companies even offer something like, accelerators. I mean, we'll talk more about this when we talk about FBDA, but just giving you guys an overview here. Okay. So basically you deal with all this stuff. And yeah, let's quickly get into the reporting elements of it, right? So see, Oracle certainly offers various different reporting tools, right? I'll start from the bottom here. BA reporting is something, a very high volume and, pixel perfect reports can be created. This is where your EBS folks can very much, feel comfortable and create. Certainly with some limitations, you cannot use your report triggers and stuff like that here. But still, you can really leverage all your strong SQL knowledge here, right? And this is across all modules. Okay. OTBA is something, this is ad hoc, quick reporting without needing of any SQL knowledge. Do a drag and drops, apply formula columns, do quickly create a pie chart, quickly create a, a bar graph, right? And then export it in an Excel, export it to a PPT. I mean, it's just super quick, and it is probably the functional folks will easily relate. For the power business users can quickly make their hands dirty to, quickly create and figure out, hey, quick analysis basically, right? The another important aspect is smart view reporting. Smart view reporting is like, it's basically a Hyperion product which got kind of borrowed and leveraged in the Fusion space. This is purely for the multi-dimensional analysis, and this is mainly used on the general ledger. And if you heard about EPM, Oracle EPM, like products, even there they use this. Is in a very simple terms, right? This will basically helps you to download your GL balances and do drill down and drill through. I mean, this basically gives the power of Excel for a power user to do their analysis and pivots based on the GL balances. In a simple, this will work based on a Excel plugin, which will connect to the Oracle Fusion, and then you'll do that stuff. And then lastly, another tool is like Financial Reporting Studio. Again, this is also a Hyperion product, right? Primarily, this is primarily used for building the income statements, your balance sheets, your cash flows. Okay, so I mean, because it's like a three-dimensional, right? Like because the data you deal here, especially in the smart view and financial reporting, the data is a three-dimensional. Generally, in the BA publisher, you mostly deal with the two-dimensional data, right? But whereas here you have a cube database, and we have a three-dimensional data, and then the way it operates, the is little different, and then the nature of the reports are also little complicated and different. So in that sense, generally we deal with that. So, but majorly, most of the companies, most of the clients, they mainly rely on these two, BAP and OTBA. Okay, then these are like depending on their use cases. Some power users uses them. Some specific teams deals with the financial report. Okay. Another important concept is like, your customizations or extensions, right? I mean, this is an important concept basically. And many people have this question, hey, look, this is a SaaS environment. What are my options to extend? I mean, extend my application or customize an application. I mean, certainly in comparison with the on-premise applications like EBL, certainly we tend to get a little disappointed in terms of the customizations, because it's a SaaS offering, first of all. There are certain tools available to customize, but not to a level where you get a feasibility in the on-premise applications. And again, we have a tool called Application Composer, but believe me, it's like a super slow tool. Like it's just not really until unless there is a requirement where for me there is no other option except using this. Generally, clients use that. We'll certainly see small examples dealing with that tool also. But generally, using App Composer, we get some leverage to basically customize, the application. Right, but primarily many companies mainly lives just with the personalizations, like renaming the fields, or hiding the fields, or things like that. But you cannot delete a field totally from a system, or add a brand new column into the page. That's something not possible. Using Page Composer, it certainly offers you to build a brand new page, with its own data elements behind the screen. But again, it's super slow. It's not very much recommended in all kind of use cases. Just a sec. Okay, and then I mean, this Page Composer is nothing but using, that's what I'm talking about. Using this, it will slightly allow you to apply certain expression language, to basically dynamically display your column values based on certain values, and those kind of things are possible. Like you can make a field required, make it mandatory, or reorder, those kind of things we can do. And I'm sure people are aware of this DFFs and KFFs and EFFs. That's very much there even in the EBS world, especially DFFs, KFFs. I'm sure many people know this for dealing with the custom field requirement, but they have their limitations in their nature, right? And then what we call, like I told, right, you have to, I mean, if you need to use this extensively, one must know the expression language or the Groovy coding, because these two are important. Because this application composer, especially for the complex use cases, they heavily rely on this Groovy code and expression language. Okay. So moving on to the next one. Another important concept is the security in the cloud. So the security is like, it's a shared responsibility between Oracle and customer. right? But it's the customer who mainly drives the security aspect of it, right? Oracle uses something like role-based access control. When I say role-based access control, it just works at three different levels. Who means like a person, like, person or a role, basically an employee or a line manager or some kind of HR specialist, right? Can access what data, basically? Like, say an employee can view the payslips of for their data, right? A manager can certainly apply different merits, for the whole list of workers reports to him, right? Let's say a payable manager, let's say a payable manager, a global payable manager can basically see all the invoices across the globe. Or let's say an India payable manager can only see the invoices created in the India business unit. So like that, we have different type of roles, basically, where you can have the control. You can see in this slide where, where you primarily we have like data roles, abstract roles, job roles, and duty roles. We'll talk more about them when we talk about what exact the differences and all. But I mean, these are various different categories primarily introduced by Oracle to have a granular control on the application. So I'll take a quick example. Let's say I joined in a company as a payable specialist. That means my job role is to process the payable invoices, right? But if I get that role, can I process everything in the company? Certainly not. Let's say I joined from, uh, North American region. I have to get only access to the invoices, or I have to get a privilege to only create the invoices for the North America region, not for any other. So that is where your data roles comes into the picture. Like, I mean, they tend to sound little confusing basically in the beginning, but there is a clear differentiation in terms of what will do what. Okay. So the last, that brings to a last topic of workflows, basically, which is like in the entire application, all the workflows are catered by BEPL workflows, BPM workflows, which basically means, let's say you have a account payable invoice or requisition approval, purchase order approval, or a new hire approval, right? Or you take anything basically across you, it is heavily relies on BPM. So business process management workflows can be configured, and they mainly relies on your approval groups, approval hierarchies, basically, right? Because these approval groups and hierarchies are not something new. People from the EBS background can also relate, because you have a position based hierarchy, you have a supervisor based hierarchy. Even in Fusion you have a job level or grade level hierarchies, and different type of hierarchies available. But that's a common thing, right? Whether you are maintaining a HCM system within the application Oracle Fusion or outside of the Oracle Fusion, you need to maintain those hierarchies in the system and approval groups in the system, so that those can be used in your BPM workflow to configure. You can certainly configure various different conditions. Hey, if I'm creating a purchase requisition for the India business unit, okay, if the amount is more than $5,000, send the approval to this group. If it is more than $10,000, initiate a second level approval. So you can do these kind of conditional configurations across all the workflows, in the BPM, basically. Okay, and most likely this is dealt by the functional folks, but at times in some companies, even the technical folks also deals with this. And certainly in our course, we'll also deal with the workflows and giving an overview of workflows, a transactional console, how to look, check for all the notifications, act on them, and do some modifications to the existing workflows, and and things like that. Okay. So yeah, that's all I have. I'm going to spend the remaining time on giving you a quick demo. But before that, anyone have any questions? I'll just open for next 5 minutes, for any questions, and then we'll quickly get into the applications, and I'll give you a quick hands-on demo on the application.
Yeah, hi Vishwa, I'm Dhananjay here.
Hey,
Uh,
hi, Dhananjay.
yeah, Vishwa, I just need only like a instance. You will be providing access to the instance, right?
Yeah, yes,
So
definitely.
that will be having like how organization data will be having, or it's like a demo access.
No, it's like, see, anywhere you go, people are going to only provide you the demo environments because, I mean, basically we will not get a production grade environment with all valid data. It certainly contains a lot of, sample data, and at the same time, we cannot guarantee you that it is in a good shape because many people works and experiment and learn, right? So,
Mhm.
I mean, it all depends on what exactly you're looking for, but generally for a general practice purposes, it's pretty good uh, environment to deal, like, look for the enterprise structures and defining the chart of accounts if you want, and then or you take any module basically for that matter. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anyone have any other questions? That's okay, even if it's basic or an advanced one, feel free to ask. Happy to answer.
Hey Vishwa, Sachin here.
Hey, hi Sachin.
Um, yeah, it was good training. We were able to get some basics of the what we are trying to give
Mhm.
for the further. I was also looking like when you were explaining, I know the technical perspective of the Oracle Fusion, but are you also going to give some experiments or demo on the perspective to how the OIC, OCI, and the SAS pass they all link and interact? That
A
you
good
will
question,
also give.
Sachin. Very much, yes. See, as far as the today's session concerned, this is mainly targeted on the SaaS of it, SaaS demo. That's why I was mainly touch basing mainly on the SaaS of it. Tomorrow's demo is for the OIC part of it, right? Basically, we'll be talking about everything and anything about OIC. At the same time, I'll also be touch basing on the OCA because all the SaaS pass, everything is integral part of your OCA, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. I mean, again, we don't be dwelling a lot into the OCA because but good enough to understand how to provision our applications and what are the important elements on the or the offerings on the OCA, which we may touch base or leverage from a technical profile standpoint. Yes, to
Got
answer
it.
your question precisely, very much. We'll cover all those aspects.
So will you be just showing us the training the index or like all the topics that you're going to cover today or at the end of third session?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow I'm going to showcase you. I mean, for the because you're mainly looking for the OIC part of it, right? OIC, OCA, right?
I'm
Or
looking for everything, but just
everything.
saying
Okay.
that mainly
Yeah.
like all things, the integration kind of. I'm like I know you might be providing as individual each, but I'm mainly looking all three together, how they interact and those kind of. Um, this one we are exercises are we going to do? That's I was
Sure,
looking.
sure. See, Sachin, I mean, I think if you're asking the two angles to your question, one is the contents. That's something we are going to provide you. Like on the SaaS, what are all the contents we are going to cover, and on the PaaS, what are all the contents we are going to cover. The other angle, what I understood from your question is how they are interlinked, and obviously, right? Let's say you create a report in the SaaS. Obviously, we will have a use case of calling that report, enriching that report, and sending that report to different destinations using OIC. That's basically a linkage between your SaaS and PaaS, right? Let's say if there is an invoice you kind of created in the SaaS environment, we will certainly see how to get that invoice using OIC, or probably will also showcase you a use case where you how we can create an invoice using OIC in the SaaS, right? I mean, when from
Yeah.
a functional, I mean, it's just not theory. We'll be talking and doing pretty good hands-on also, talking about various different real-time use cases. but they all at the end everything talks to each other. Like that's how it makes sense, right? Otherwise, why would even a company opts for multiple platform ecosystems if they don't talk each other and bring a business value? Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for answering that.
Any other questions? Okay. So, okay. So, what I'm going to do is, right, I'll be quickly taking you into the Oracle Fusion space and just give you some overview about how the look and feel of the application. And we'll try to do some quick hands-on with the report. I will try to create a brand new report and just give you a feel of how the teaching style, or how we are going to go and what we are going to cover and things like that, right? And before that, may I know all of you are from the EBS background, or anyone who is totally new to the system, like or totally new to the ERP space? Hello. Okay. Okay, so
I'm from the ERP background, so
okay, cool. Okay. So let me just take you to the application. So Sajid, when you say ERP background, I mean, are you actively working on Oracle Fusion?
oh, kind of the middleware, intermediate.
Oh, cool.
More of the PaaS platforms I'm working, so that's how
Okay.
I'm interested in the interaction.
Okay. Yeah. So guys, you see, whatever you're seeing on the screen is the SaaS, screen. You can basically log in using this, or even log in using your single sign-on. If it's a single sign-on enabled, you will see a small button here, log in with your company sign-in, right? So if you just click on sign in, page might have expired. Yeah. So this is the SaaS login basically. I've logged in with a super user called a financial implementation user. So these are certain dashboards you're seeing, because there are some of them are out of the box and someone or might have modified it, but this is how your UI look like. Okay, so where you will see various different module specific information, sitting in each of the tab. For example, these are the procurement related information you're seeing here, right? This is the payroll information, risk management, bill management, contract management. So how does this work is, if you remember this role-based access control, right? Since it's a super user and implementation user, this user got all the roles which are needed for a development, right? That's why you see so many modules. Like if you click on this hamburger menu here on top left, see, this is a more convenient view for you to group all the functionalities under each menu. Each menu is, you can think like a module, right? Where you can basically see, for example, the payroll related information can be found here. The functionalities can be performed using anything for the payroll can be found here. These menu options, right? And then the revenue management, the cash management, the fixed assets, expenses, all that stuff. So basically module specific and also the admin related stuff in the tools, right? You are going to find various different options to submit an ESS job. In the security console, you're going to find an option to create a brand new users, right? And also give the necessary roles. For example, if I just open the security console here, just go to users and then search for our own user, fin_impl. Search for this. Okay, so now you see I have this user. Let me open this. Now you see here, the user have these many roles as allocated, added basically, right? So it does have all the payable related roles here, right? It does have a receivable related roles. It does have, transactional control like the BEPAL related roles, super user roles like implementation consultant, roles related to the fixed assets, to specific corporate books, cash management roles, customer related roles, employee related roles. Like I told, right, generally, you can have two different kind of a role. One is a real business user kind of a role where the functionality you are going to get is totally proportional to what they're going to do, basically to their proportional to their job role, basically. Okay. Whereas people like us, we implement or we support. So we generally get this kind of a financial or the supply chain or a HCM implementation roles with all these role information, roles preloaded in the system. But in a real-time scenario, a database administrator or a security guy who will take this call of provision what rules depending on your job role. Generally, we get this kind of a super user access based on certain justifications when you are in a huge implementation project, right? So other than that, right, like okay, so let's say if you wanted to do some transaction of creating a payable invoice, right? You can certainly go to payables and invoices. This is what I was talking. Business intelligence is very much imbibed into many of the modules. These are all we call infolets, which are like gives a small meaningful information for you. It says like, some scanned invoices between a different age brackets, like the day brackets, the recents, and how many of them holds are applied in the last 7 days, approvals which are pending, rejected, and all that, some meaningful information out of the box, all standard, given by Oracle. But generally, depending on your role, if I want to create a sales invoice, sales invoice, or sales order, you need to navigate, find out the right menu, and then get in there and then create the respective transaction, right? For example, if I quickly try to create an invoice. If I select a business unit, let's say, I'll select this India business unit. So these are all the setups basically. Because someone set up the business units in the system, I was able to use that in my transaction to create. Similarly, the supplier, say if I have what suppliers I've got here. Choose a different business unit, which I generally use. Okay. Provide an invoice number and then amount. And it's a standard invoice. And click on save. So basically, right, like this is, I'm just showing a quick demo. It's just not the main theme of the training, but the whole idea is just for you, for the people who are new or even from the EVS background. This is how you generally you create a transaction in the system. Like as an example, we have created an AP invoice, only the header. Certainly, we can add the lines and you can add distributions and all that information. Okay, so and then save it and then take this forward to what we call validate this and finally account this and finally pay this. So this is all going to be part of your functional training, like where the procure to pay cycle is going to get executed. Okay, so but the point is the transactions will be carried out in this particular fashion, and the dependent setups can be basically accessed from the setup and maintenance here. This is where, for each and every module, this is the procurement here, right? And then similarly, you have financials. So every module, there is a huge set of setups one have to perform, or let's say, depending on what transaction you wanted to create. Let's say for creating a payable invoice, if you have saw just now, right? I definitely need a business unit. I will be also needing a supplier setup, also the supplier site setup, right? The payment terms setup, right? Now, all this information are bare minimum like that, right? Depending on what transaction you are making or creating, the respective setups has to be there in the system, or we have to create for a successful transaction creation in the system. And if I take a sales order, right, I have to create a customer information, account information, right? Otherwise, I cannot really carry out a sales order creation in the system. So basically, you can see here the legal structures and, I mean, all this something, these tasks will be leveraged to create your what we call the functional setups. Without having a proper functional setups, it is not practically possible to create the transactional functionalities or the transactions in the system. Okay. So, I mean, in a nutshell, using this setup and maintenance, you keep coming here to this space to add any setup data, add some values, or, deal with any approval related setups or any lookups or your DFFs, descriptive flex fields, or, key flex fields or extensive flex fields, or even order management extensions. I mean, anything related to the setup, you have to come here and choose the right offering and then, search further for the relevant task and make your necessary additions or changes to the setups, and then go back to your transactions and then continue working out your use case. So that's how it works basically, right? Now, what I'll now show you is, right, if I click here, in the tools, you have something like reports and analytics. So this is the space where we create reporting, like, all the custom reports, and we can also access the standard reports. If you click on browse catalog, this will take you into the analytical space, BAP analytics space basically. Okay, so this is where you can basically see your folders. The my folders represents the folders. This is dedicated to this particular user. Anything you put here will not be visible to any other users in the system. So think like this is a personal space, or the reports which are work in progress, which you don't wanted other people to come and mess or modify and mess, or alter your changes. So people use these my folders. Let's say if you wanted to modify a standard report, or you wanted to do a work on a specific report. If the report is based on a certain standard report or an existing report, you can make a copy here and do your trial and errors and everything here, and then keep it, and then finally move it to the shared folder. Okay, shared folder is something you will see the folders which are given by the Oracle, all the reports given by the Oracle standard reports, at the same time, the custom reports which are built for your organizational needs. Okay. In any organization, there will be a heavy reporting needs where people create a folder called custom, and within that they create module specific folders. This is a demo environment. That's why you see so many unprofessional names showing up here. But in the real environment, you see something like this. See financials, financial setups, FRS reports. So I mean, that means these are all custom reports which are meant for their organizational needs. Like they customized or built something brand new from the scratch, right? Whereas if I go back to the shared folders again, you see this financials. This is like out of the box. These are provided by the Oracle. Okay. Across the different modules, like collections means AR, fixed assets, general ledger, intercompany, payables, payments, receivables, because we are in the financials area. Similarly, if I get into the human capital management, I'll see all the compensation related, core HR related, and all the extracts and payroll related. These are all the standard reports provided by Oracle out of the box, right? So now, generally, to create a brand new report, right? So you just basically go to create here and click on data model. So the first and foremost thing for creating a report is, for example, BA report. The first and foremost thing is you need to create a DM, which means a data model. Okay, which basically contains a SQL query, right? Okay, and then you need to create a report, okay, which basically contains your layout, how you wanted to represent your data, right? And this layout also can be configured with the format you wanted to generate your report, be it CSV or Excel or PDF or HTML, etc. Right? So I mean, majority of the work relays at the two levels. For creating the data model, one should have a proficiency of SQL and also have some decent knowledge on the data model, because it's important to, now you created a payable invoice and you need to know which table it is storing in, right? You created a supplier record, you need to know which table and how can I combine both of them. So one must have that knowledge on what we call the data model relationship and all, along with the SQL proficiency, so that you can effectively build the SQL queries, right? The layout is like, generally people create RTF layouts or even, Excel layouts, right? And so on and so forth. The different XSL layouts and different type of layouts available, so that they can organize the data coming out of this in the desired way by giving a company label and then grouping the data and presenting them in the tabular forms, and all that stuff can be taken care in the RTFs basically. Okay. Now with this basic understanding, right, let's go and create a report, right? So there are various different options here. Certainly not everything is, will be used. Remember that this analytics product is nothing but Oracle's OBIE product, which got, integrated into the Oracle Fusion. The so many options, your different data model options you're seeing here are not practically applicable to Oracle Fusion, right? So we may mostly hit on SQL query. So give a name here. Let's say supplier demo DM data model. Data source is what? These are all different data sources, right? So mainly we hit on any of the three, depending on which module you wanted to fetch the data from. So FSCM means all your financials and supply chain related reports need to choose this data source. HCM is something, if your report is building on HCM, you need to choose this data source. And CRM is obviously for the customer relationship management. So since supplier related data is something going to be part of supply chain, so I'm going to select this one. Now choose the type of SQL as standard SQL, and this is where I need to write my SQL query, right? Now, let's say I have a SQL query with me, which is like written predefined. Let me just bring the screen to you. So I have a SQL query, which basically brings the supplier information, right? And then when it got created, the supplier information, and when it got created, if there is any inactive date, and all that stuff is, and the supplier address and country, supplier site information, supplier number is what I'm basically getting. And this, we are getting it from these tables, like, the POC supplier holds the supplier information. HZ parties holds the supplier name. So this is site information we are having here. And then we need to club. Basically, the supplier information is spread across supplier tables and HZ tables, like TCA tables. So those tables were taken here and the respective joins, corresponding joins, right? So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to complicate it. I'm just simply removing my parametered options here. I'll just quickly, take this report, take this query, and then I'm going here and then adding it here. Click OK. Okay, now you see the select columns are showing up here, and then I can basically go to data and then click on view. Now you see I've got my data under one data set. G1 is group 1 because it only have one group, and each row is representing in this manner. So despite I take more number of columns, but this view only showcases you of the columns which have a data. So this is a vendor, this is a vendor ID, vendor number, vendor code, vendor type, supplier, right? And then address followed by when it got created and when there is a site date which got end dated. Okay. So now there is also another, this we call it a tree view. And because I chose to show only 5 rows, only 5 rows are showed up. Depending on how many rows the report picked up, if the report picks up less than 5 rows, certainly it will only show, despite you select 200, it will only show those many. So the maximum you can see here is 200 rows because you are in a design mode here. This is not at the runtime. At the design time, you can only see the minimum of 200 rows. This is just for the purpose of verifying whether your query is getting any data or not. One convenient view is a tabular view, table view, where you have a pretty decent view. Basically, it even brings the columns where you don't have data also, right? So this is my data looking like at the moment. Right now, the next step is I need to first do a save as a sample data. Okay, because this data has to be fed into the report creation. Otherwise you cannot proceed forward. Once you save this, right, you can even export this. This will export as a XML file. This is certainly used further for your report layout generation reasons. We'll talk that about later. For now, as far as this demo concerns, it is not really needed. Okay. Now the next step is you have various different options here, report triggers and field flex fields and list of values. Generally, if it's a custom report, we most likely define parameters and list of values. Parameters is being like, this is a blind query I'm running without having any parameter for the sake of this demonstration. But generally, if you see my original query, it does have 2 parameters, right? Which will accept the vendor code and, a country, where you can further add the list of values to the parameter so that wrong values cannot be entered. That means when you add a list of value to a parameter, you are telling that, hey, look, you select your parameter value from a predefined list of values. So it won't give any room to enter an incorrect values, right? And then bursting is an advanced concept. We'll check later. Will certainly doesn't deal with event triggers or flex fields because they are limited to the standard reports functionality. Now we have a data model, we have a query, and it is certainly fetching the data. Right now, first save the data model. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'll just keep this in my local folder for now because still it's in a design phase. I'm certainly not confident to keep this in the public folder. So I'll just save supplier. So I'll say access supplier data model. Okay, click OK. Now you see my data model got saved here, right? And then the next step is to create a report. You already saved the sample data and click on report. There are multiple ways of creating a report. One way is right. You wanted to use a guide me option to go next. Let's say it's all by default. It selected your XDM. That's the extension of your data model. And if you click on next, it will give you an option. I'll choose the landscape and then I'll choose the tabular format and then click next. The instance is a little slow today. Let's just please bear with me. We're gonna get your data elements. See, whatever the data elements you have under group 1 showing up here, I'll just choose the columns I need. Vendor name, let's say vendor site code. I'll just choose city and then I'll choose country and then I'll choose creation date and I'll choose supplier inactive date. Probably I'll choose supplier and site end date. Okay, and then click next. Then finish. Now it is asking me to save the report. So I'll say custom supplier report. Suppliers site report. I'm saving the same my folders. Click OK. Now you see my report, automatically showed up in all the entire data has been pulled by my query, and then by default it is showing up in the PDF format. I can certainly download this to my local, where it will ask for me to save and load, and then certainly I can edit this further to even modify my format. Let's say I wanted to keep it HTML and then save and view report. I can get the data in the HTML format, right? Currently, you see we don't have a logo. Let's say generally companies' common requirement is to put their logo here, any internal or external reports. So all that modifications can be done by using the RTF layout changes, right? If I click on edit report again, I'll show you what other options are available here as an output format. Go to view list here, and you see here you have generally we don't use Word and all that, even not the RTF, because it's an output format you're looking for, right? Either you use this or even Excel for that, Excel, and that's all. You don't even use PowerPoint, right? There are so many, and then CSV. Whatever you select from the output formats, you will only see that list here. So if I can, generally the most common requirement to generate the data in the data, so that it's easy to download and forward to any third-party systems or anyone concerned, data CSV or even Excel for that matter, right? Choose that and then save and click on view report. This automatically downloads an Excel file which will contains all my data. You see this? So we can customize this in such a way to show the data in the way we want. Like you want to group them by supplier or by city, or you wanted to represent it little differently. All that customizations can be done either at the query level or at the even layout level, basically, right? So this is how we generally create a BA publish. This is the basic BA publisher report. Certainly there is a lot more then, but just for you to give a quick little gist of uh, how we are going to teach you. This is given this small demo. So I think that concludes the today's session. We will be certainly giving you another demo on the Oracle Integration Cloud which is the PaaS aspect of it tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll be kind of showcasing you, giving you a demo, and also we'll be walking you through the different contents we are going to cover and the use cases we are going to cover, both for the SaaS and PaaS. Okay. So any questions before we conclude the session for today? Hello. Guys, can you hear me? Anyone have any questions? That's okay. Even if it's a basic question, please feel free to ask. I mean, anything. Okay. Then I assume we are good here. Shall we conclude the call?
Yeah, sure, Satya.
Yeah, thank you, Ramesh. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today, spending your valuable time with us to learn more. So please feel free to drop your questions, anything, even after the call to our admin team, or you can even get back to me tomorrow. We are going to connect at the same time to discuss and give you a demo on the Oracle Integration Cloud Generation 3. Okay. Thank you very much and have a good rest of the day and evening, depending on wherever you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Satya.
Yeah.
Thank you, Satya. Wish you the same.